Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of our Sunday night college baseball recap here on No Doubter. I am your co-host Travis T-Bone Loftley. Normally I would be joined as well on the other side of our screen here by my other co-host Barrett Boombostic. We have unfortunately had some weather that's rolled through the Dallas-Fort Worth area this evening, and as such, he got noticed about an hour and a half ago that he lost power. So I'm going to be holding down the fort for us all this week here on our recap. We're gonna make it work. I've done my prep work here to cover across the major conferences, along with our mid-major teams here. They're in the top 25 this week. Boom will rejoin us again next week. And as I'm holding down the fort by myself tonight, I'm kind of exchanging the favors. He'll be doing the same on Tuesday night this week for our Major League Baseball recap, as I will be out that evening and unable to join him. So once again, all programming next week. Boom and I should be back together like normal for both shows. But this is just kind of one of these occasional things that unfortunately sometimes one of us isn't going to be able to make it, and so one of us is going to have to hold it down by ourselves. So you get just me this week, and hope y'all enjoy the show. So let's dive right into it, shall we? This week's top 25. We'll go on ahead and just take a read down here. Who all was in the top 25 this week, and then what was their record that they faced here, kind of from the games the past week. So Tennessee came in at number 1 overall. Surprise, surprise. The Volunteers just continue to look stout as ever. They have a 37-3 overall record on the year. They went 4-0 on this past week. Oregon State continues their rise, maybe kind of a bit of a quiet rise. The Pac-12 teams don't always get as much attention as they deserve, but the Beavers have been really stout so far this year. They're 31-8 on the season. They had a record of 4-1 over their past week's games. The Oklahoma State Cowboys have moved all the way up to number 3 in the country. They set a 27-13 overall record. They had a 1-3 record on this past week. So a little bit of a drop for them. We'll talk more about it here soon. Arkansas, they are 31-9 on the year, and they went 3-2 this past week. They're at number 4. Number 5, all the way down sunny South Florida and Coral Gables, the Miami Hurricanes have a 31-9 record on the year, and they went 3-1 this past week. Southern Miss, out of the Conference USA, they have continued their rise to the top to this point this year, and just looking like even better of a team as the days go by. 32-8 on the year, 5-0 over this past week. A clean sweep of all teams between their midweek games and their weekend series. Stanford is sitting now at 24-12 on the year. They made a major jump here into the top 10, now number 7 in the country. They went 4-1 this past week. Virginia Tech Hokies out of the ACC. They are now 28-9 on the year. They were number 8 as of this past week. 5-0 on all their games this past week between midweek and their weekend games during their series. Boom and I's Texas Tech Red Raiders now sit at 29-14 on the week. They split their games 2-2. They're sitting at number 9 in the country. Texas Longhorns, they are 30-13 right now at number 10 in the country. They are 4-1 on their past week's games. Virginia Cavaliers sitting at 31-10 on the year, number 11 in the country right now. They were 4-1 their past week's games. Gonzaga Bulldogs out of the West Coast Conference, they were 26-11 so far this year. Number 12 in the country right now. They were 3-2 in their past week's games. UCLA Bruins out of the Pac-12, 27-12 on the year, 13th ranked as of this past week, 3-1 on their past week's games. Georgia Bulldogs, they're clocking in at number 14 right now, 28-12 on the year, and they split their games over the past week to 2-2. UConn out of the Big East Conference, the newly rejoined Big East Conference they're part of now, 32-8 on the year, 15th in the country. They were 4-1 on their games over the past week. Louisville, the Cardinals, 27-12 on the year, 16th ranked over the past week, and they went 3-1 on their games. Texas State Bobcats, they're just having an incredible year. They quietly sit right there, number 17 in the country, 32-9 on their schedule for the year, 4-0, a clean sweep of the past week. Number 18, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They play in the ACC for their baseball games, and they are 26-8 on the year, 5-0 over the past week. Auburn Tigers, they're number 19 in the country right now, out of the SEC, as you all probably know, 29-12 on the year, a clean 5-0 sweep of the past week. They continue to sit right there and continue to be putting together a very nice bounce back season for this program. Number 20 in the country, the Oregon Ducks, 36-13 on the year and 2-2 a split of the past week. Tcu Horned Frogs jumped back into the top 25 rankings. They clocked in number 21 this past week, 27-13 on the year and 3-1 on their games over the past week. Lsu Tigers have continued their up and down season at number 22 in the country, 27-12 on the year, 4-0 clean sweep of the past week. Dallas Baptist Patriots continue their somewhat confusing season, 24-15 total on the year, out of the Missouri Valley Conference, number 23 in the country, 1-3 on the past week. Maryland Terrapins out of the Big Ten. They moved back into the top 25 at number 24 in the country. They're 32-8 on the year, 3-1 on the past week. And then the Georgia Southern Panthers out of the Sun Belt Conference as well. They have moved into the top 25 to claim that final spot, 27-12 on the year and 3-1 on the past week. Friends, if y'all could do us a really big favor here, we have we made some there's some developments here within No Doubter. Good things are happening right now. We've expanded our capacity here for our production of being able to bring you this live stream. So you get the stream on both Boom and I's personal Facebook pages, our personal Twitter pages, the No Doubter Facebook and Twitter pages. We now have a YouTube account of which this streams to as well. Please go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Go ahead and like us and give us follows on both our Facebook and Twitter pages. Here, like this stream, share it, comment on it. I can see your comments coming here on the screen. If you do decide to give it a watch here, I'm going to be flipping back between multiple tabs, so just being me tonight. So I apologize. If my reaction is a little bit slow here. If maybe I catch something just at the tail end, if we have to maybe backtrack a little bit there. However, just any way you can interact here with this program, help get it more in front of your friends and family. We really, really appreciate that. Helps with the algorithm, helps grow this thing. We've had some new listeners that have come in lately. We really, really appreciate the growth in that regard. And, as we approach 1 year soon of No Doubter coming up, we've really been thankful that everybody's been with us to this part, and we're looking forward to even more people joining us for the future. So with that in mind, the top 25, we're going to now make our run through here our conferences and mid-majors per usual. Tonight we'll be tackling in this order: the Big 12, the ACC, the Pac-12, the SEC, the Big 10, and then some of our select mid-major teams that are sitting in the top 25 right now. So let's start with the top team right now in the Big 12 rankings wise. That is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So Oklahoma State, as of the past week, I mentioned that they had a bit of a tough one here. They dropped a midweek game at home versus Oral Roberts, 9-5 in 12 innings. Tough outing for them then. It went 1-2 on the weekend at home in Stillwater versus TCU. TCU came in hot, and they just ultimately kind of had a slight edge and outperformed these guys a little bit here. Really, though, still a lot of strength to like here in this Cowboys program. You got Cam Brumbaugh, who's leading the team in batting average right now, 455. Griffin Dorshing doing a really great job here. Seems to be kind of on the rise right now with 328 batting average. Nolan McLean's leading the team in 9 home runs. Jake Hurrakes, a.k.a. Jake Thompson, has 8 home runs for these guys. Zach Earhart really does a good job of getting in motion when he's out there. 14 stolen bases. Their ace, Justin Campbell, has 6 wins as a starter this year. He got the lone win in the series on Friday night. So that was a 6th win credited to the year. He has a 2.89 ERA, and he has 95 strikeouts on the year. They've also got some other guys, that hold things down pitching-wise, too, for him and getting strikeouts and helping get their offense back on the field, with Bryce Osmond with 55 strikeouts and Trevor Martin with 45. Let's then move on to Boom and Ice, Texas Tech Red Raiders. Our Red Raiders hit just ultimately the bottomed out low of our season this past week. Tuesday played a midweek game at New Mexico in Albuquerque against the Lobos. It was very much a back and forth affair. There, Tech would lead and hold a lead, still ultimately kind of through much of the game. But New Mexico was right there, right behind, kind of lurking the entire time. They actually got more hits and was playing more offense in motion than the Red Raiders were ultimately, even as they were holding the lead through most of the game. However, they would win the game with a walk-off 3-run homer in the ninth, ultimately, so with the Red Raiders losing that game. 10-11, that would be a 5-game winning streak that they would carry back home against West Virginia in the friendly confines of Dan Law Field. So they go home. They would earn the series win ultimately at home with 2 complete game performances on Friday and Saturday from the respective starters of our Red Raiders, Andrew Morris and Brandon Birdsell. Really, really, really good outings for both those guys. Pitching held its own, obviously, with them being the only guys that pitched in those 2 games, completely saved up the bullpen. Unfortunately, our Red Raiders would have a really bad 9th inning to close out Game 3 and be blown open by West Virginia to ultimately take home a 15-4 win. Just some really key bullpen depth and injury issues that are beginning to pile on for our Red Raiders here. That even as they're picking up these crucial series wins, moving down the road here to secure their spots in the postseason, they're just not the complete team that we're looking at right now to ultimately be have, I think, a lot of confidence in them heading into the postseason this year. It's a really young group of guys, like about 2/3, 3/4 of the team here we're looking at as underclassmen guys, as freshmen, sophomores. A lot of guys, that will return. I think there's some really good talent here. But it's just been a year of a lot of guys learning how to play together and just not the most cohesive play together as a team, unfortunately, to this point. But, for a young team like that, going to the postseason certainly has its value. I really hope to see them there. Texas Longhorns. So could the Longhorns be possibly turning the tide a bit? They also had a full-on bottom out after following the previous weekend's series loss at Kansas State. They come back home to Austin, down to UFCU Dish Falk Field. They played 2 games against Air Force in midweek, and that opening game was a 2-14 loss by the Longhorns. But they would come back and get the 12-10 win the next day on Wednesday, and then they would sweep Baylor at home. So actually going back real quick here, here are guys to look at right now for Texas Tech. I apologize for backtracking real quick, but Easton Morrell has been really kind of on the rise lately. 382 batting average. Jace Young on the rise as well. 371 batting average. Ty Coleman, Sam Hunt. These guys all above 300 there. Jace Young's got 11 home runs. Kurt Wilson, 10 home runs. Parker Kelly, 4 stolen bases. Jace Young, 4 as well. Dylan Carter, 4. You can see like the ball being put in motion and then guys being in motion out there on the bases. It's just not. It's kind of heavy of certain guys at the top. Not as much depth there as you would like. Unfortunately, you can kind of see it in some situational hitting situations that has come that have come with this team lately. So we talked about Brandon Birdsell and Andrew Morris, 6 and 5 wins apiece. Credited them as starters. By and large, leading out. By and large, leading the way here as well in terms of strikeouts too. Apologize having to backtrack on. I had to give our Red Raiders a nod here, but back to Texas. Murphy Staley right now, 414 batting average. Ivan Melendez as well, the Hispanic Titanic right there with a 392. He continues to lead the team with 19 home runs on the year. Eric Kennedy has 8 stolen bases. Murphy Staley 7 as well. Dylan Campbell 6. Pete Hansing leading the team with 7 wins on the year as a starter. Tristan Stevens right there, 5. That Friday, Saturday 1-2 punch really continues to look great for the Longhorns. He is Pete Hansing also leads the team with 76 strikeouts on the year and has a 2.7 ERA, and then Tristan Stevens with a 4.5 ERA. the TCU Horned Frogs. This team right here, folks, I think they're truly on the rise at this point. There's a lot of good stuff to like about them. They are. Sorry, lost my place. Yeah, I think the question we have to ask is: are the Horned Frogs about to make a run and become the hottest team in the conference at the right time? They took home a dominant midweek win versus UT Arlington, 15-1. Then they would go on the road and take a 2-1 series win uh, over Oklahoma State after dropping the series opener. Uh, what is there ultimately to like about this TCU team? Well, there's a lot. Harrison Beath has a 500 batting average right now, leading the team. Tommy Sacco on the up and up right now with a 377 average. Braden Taylor 314. David Bishop 301. Braden Taylor leads this team with 8 home runs on the year. Mr. Tommy Sacco not far behind at 7. Elijah Nunez, man, that guy gets in motion out there on the bases. 20 stolen bases on the year for Mr. Nunez. Pitching leaders here for this team. Brett Walker with 4 wins. Marcelo Perez, 4 wins. Caleb Bolden, 3. Riley Cornelio, 3. Cornelio has been, I believe, had some injury issues lately, but once he comes back, that could be a great, more solidifying piece there for their lineup. Gives a 3.81 ERA in the games that he's played, along with 60 strikeouts. I think TCU is looking like one of the most complete teams within with all the Big 12 there. And I think it's no coincidence that after this weekend they're looking at that top spot right now in the conference. West Virginia, we'll give a couple more, not to a couple more teams here that are not in the top 25 right now, but are really strong and are looking like part of the depth here that's going to be in this program that here in this conference that's going to take probably 6 teams ultimately to regionals this year. First off with the West Virginia Mountaineers. Yeah, they picked up a win in part 1 of the backyard brawl at PNC Park in Pittsburgh this past week in midweek play. The Mountaineers would pick up the win 3-2 over Pitt in 11 innings. They did drop the series at Texas Tech this weekend, but they did salvage a win in Game 3, as I just talked about. Clearing out some tabs here. What is there like here about West Virginia? They're hanging around here. They're not a dominant team, but they're putting together a nice resume here to probably get them a spot in regionals going down the road. McGuire Holbrook has a 340 batting average, Austin Davis 329, and Brayton Berry at 310. Grant Hussey has 6 home runs for this team. Victor Scott II, 5 home runs. McGuire Holbrook 3. Victor Scott II. When it comes to stolen bases here, this is a team that kind of historically accurate around Randy Mazey led teams of West Virginia. They play a lot of small ball. They put the ball in motion a lot. 30 stolen bases from Mr. Victor Scott II. Austin Davis with 24, Tevin Tucker 17, Braden Berry 13, and JJ Weatherholt 12. Really lots of guys, get in motion out there for him, which really helps. Ben Hampton, 6 wins as a starter for that team. 3.97 ERA for him. Jacob Waters also has a 4.42 ERA, 61 strikeouts for Mr. Hampton, and 48 strikeouts on the year for Mr. Waters. Then the Oklahoma Sooners. Oklahoma Sooners, man, they really, not maybe against the best competition this past week, but they really started to show their offense can complement what's brought defensively here for this team, and especially on the mound too. They had a 9-5 midweek win versus Wichita State and the Shockers in Norman. They absolutely blew out Kansas in Lawrence this past weekend with a series sweep. Who are the guys to know here on this Oklahoma Sooner squad? Aaron Calhoun with a 500 batting average. Blake Robertson batting 386. Brett Squires 362. Peyton Graham leads that program with 10 home runs on the year, up to double digits now. Really by far the most home runs, like their leader in that program. Stolen bases wise, Peyton Graham is 16. Tanner Treadaway 14, and Kendall Pettis 14. And then they're pitching leaders here, guys that just get the job done here. A really solid kind of all the parts, the whole really make up something that's more impressive than the individual parts themselves. David Sandlin with 3 wins. Trevin Michael, with 3 wins. Jake Bennett with 3 wins. Jake Bennett leads the team with a 3.68 ERA. Chaz Martinez, love that name, 4.36 ERA, and then David Sandlin a 4.99 ERA. Jake Bennett, 64 strikeouts in the year. Trevin Michael, 48, and David Sandlin, 45 as well. Moving on to the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, a team that really is just shown its strength from day one here in college baseball this year, and the strength of a program doesn't seem to be letting up at all. Miami Hurricanes, number 5 team in the country. They had a tough outing last week up in Blacksburg against the soaring Virginia Tech program. But, they returned home and they got their business done this week. They had a 9-0 midweek win over Bethune-Cookman back in Coral Gables. And then they would also take care of business with Pitt coming into town as well. That series was won 2-1. They only dropped 1 game, and that was today's closer for the series. Virginia Tech, like I talked about, the Hokies are soaring. They made a major jump in top 25 this week, all the way into the top 10. They had midweek wins both at home on Tuesday, 9-6 versus VMI, and Wednesday, 13-8 against Radford. At Radford, they swept Boston College on the road. Games 1 and 3 of those are both played on campus there at Boston College, and then game 2 was at Fenway Park. So really neat experience. You always like to see a lot of these guys in college baseball here get an opportunity to play in big league parks. Some of those guys that's indicative of their future. Other guys that are playing the last ball that they will ever play in their career. So a great opportunity for both Virginia Tech and Boston College to be able to have that experience of playing at a historic Fenway Park right there. Incredible place to see baseball. Highly recommended. I've talked about it before. I mean, it's just not just being a baseball fan. If you're a sports fan, you got to go see baseball at Fenway sometime. Just history left and right. The Virginia, we talking back real quick here about Miami and Virginia. We've talked a lot about Miami's pitching holding things down for him, but they've got some hitting that's developing as well for him. CJ Kafis with 390 batting average, JD Jones with 357, Jacob Burke with 354, Yohandi Morales with 7 home runs in the year, Dominic Patelli 6 home runs. CJ Kafis also has 13 stolen bases, and Patelli with 8 stolen bases. Jacob Long also with 6. The pitching leaders: Jake Garland 6 wins, Carson Palmquist 6 wins. Jake Garland has a 2.19 ERA, and you're trending towards elite numbers there. Carson Ligon 3.57 ERA and Carson Palmquist 3.75 ERA. 70 strikeouts in the year for Mr. Palmquist, 46 for Ligon, and then 41 for Andrew Walters. For Virginia Tech, what are they bringing here for this team? I've got Jack Hurley leading things with a 426 batting average. Tanner Schobel, 371 batting average, and Lucas Donlin, 368. Tanner Schobel also has 13 home runs. Cade Hunter, 13 home runs, and Jack Hurley, 11 home runs. Nick Biddison has 11 stolen bases. Cade Hunter with 10, and Jack Hurley with 7. Drew Hackenberg, 8 wins on the mound this year for that team. Griffin Green with 6, and Henry Wecker with 4. Drew Hackenberg with a 2.10 ERA. Once again, elite territory we're looking at there. Griffin Green, 3.44 ERA. Drew Hackenberg with 55 strikeouts. Griffin Green with 43, and Graham Fervid with 41. And then moving to another Virginia team, the Who's or the Cavaliers or whatever you want to call them there in Charlottesville, Virginia. They've gotten in the top 25 recently, and they've just stuck around, playing really solid ball. They got a midweek 6-4 win versus Georgetown. And then the Cavaliers swept this version of the South's oldest rivalry. That is the Virginia versus UNC, North Carolina Diamond Heels rivalry between those two programs. Complete sweep for the Who's in Charlottesville. What's to like about this team? Well, hitting wise, Addie Burrow, 667 batting average. That is insane. Jake Goloff, Jake who rakes, 382 batting average, and Alex Tappan, 349. Jake Goloff, he can really rake. 15 home runs on the year. Alex Tappan with 9 and Chris Newell with 8. Chris Newell also has 14 stolen bases. Griff O'Farrell has 12, and then Max Codier with 6. Brian Gursky has 6 wins as a starter on the mound. Devin Ortiz with 5, and then Nate Savino with 4. Jake Berry 4 as well. Brian Gursky's 2.47 ERA leads the team, and Nate Savino not far behind at 3.76. Savino has 59 strikeouts on the year, Gursky 57, and Jake Berry 49. Let's head a little bit more west towards the more central part of the country, and certainly west for the ACC Conference. Louisville Cardinals. Louisville picked up a midweek win at home over in-state rival Kentucky, 4-2, and then they picked up a series win at home over NC State, 2-1. In that series, they took it. Louisville is led by Jack Payne with a 392 batting average. Christian Knapsick has a 353 average. Logan Beard and Austin Bode each with a 333 average. Ben Metzinger, 14 home runs. Carson Masterman, 13. And then Dalton Rushing, 11. In the stolen base department, Levi Usher leading the team by and large, far and away with 23. Knapsick at 14. And Isaac Humphrey with 9. Pitching-wise, this is definitely an offensive-led program here, but, they can get the job done on the mound as well. Tate Cooner with 4 wins, Ryan Hawks with 4, and Riley Phillips with 3. Jared Pullen has a 3 flat ERA, Riley Phillips with a 4.14, and then Tate Cooner with a 4.95. Jared Pullen has 63 strikeouts on the year, Riley Phillips 43, and then Ryan Hawks 38. Now we round out the ACC, the last of the ranked teams, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As I said, Notre Dame, they do play baseball here in the ACC. Notre Dame had a convincing 12-2 win over Purdue Fort Wayne at home in midweek play. More than took care of business against the team that they should have. Got a series sweep over Wake Forest and South Bend. Notre Dame just once again feels like one of those programs we don't talk about enough, but they are right there. They're led by Tony Lindwedel with a 667 batting average. Goodness gracious. Brady Gump, 375. Carson Putz, 359. Brooks Katsy, the third, 8 home runs. Carter Putz, 5 home runs. And then Jake Brannigan, also 5 home runs. And then Ryan Cole and Jake Ziska, 5 home runs apiece. They just hit dingers here on this team, folks. Ryan Cole with 12 stolen bases on the year, Spencer Myers 5, and Jared Miller 5. Pitching wise, they can pitch here as well too. John Michael Bertrand 6 wins on the mound, Aiden Tyrell 4, and Jack Finley 4. John Michael Bertrand has a 1.66 ERA. That is certainly elite. Aiden Tyrell 3 ERA, and then Austin Temple 3.15 ERA. Man, the average between those 3 guys, that's incredible. It's going to be a tough outing versus Notre Dame when you're working against pitchers of that caliber. Bertrand has 67 strikeouts on the year. Austin Temple with 51. And then Ryan McClinsky, 39. Moving on to the Pac-12, the Conference of Champions far out west. First off, the Oregon State Beavers. Talked about they moved all the way up to number 3 in the country. They more than took care of business with a 9-4 win over Gonzaga, a very good win at that in the midweek against a rock-solid mid-major program in the Bulldogs. And then they had the weekend sweep of Washington and the Huskies in Corvallis. Oregon State, Justin Thornstein has a straight 1 batting average. I'm assuming this guy's probably newer into the lineup here. That's not something that's sustainable over the year. But hey, welcome to Showtime, Mr. Thornstein. It's you got to be happy about that if you're a Beavers fan, seeing that someone can come out swinging, obviously, for your team. Wade Meckler, 373 batting average. Javen Trobsky, 370 batting average, and then Jacob Melton at 361. Jacob Melton also has 10 home runs on the year, leading the team with double digits. Justin Boyd with 4, Tanner Smith with 3. The stolen base department, 19 stolen bases from Mr. Justin Boyd, 14 from Jacob Melton, and then 10 from Wade Meckler. Pitching wise, Cooper Jerpy continues to lead this team at 8 wins on the mound. Jacob Matz, 7 wins, and then Ryan Brown 4. Cooper Jerpy has a 2.08 ERA. Jacob Matz has a 3.26 ERA. Cooper Jerpy now has 100 strikeouts on the year. He is up to triple digits. That is ridiculous. Jacob Matz, 44 strikeouts, and then Ben Ferrer, 34. Moving on to the Stanford Cardinal. The Stanford Cardinal really, as of late, over the past month, have gotten things together and look like they are living up now to the hype that they had heading into this season. Stanford had a 10-8 win at Cal Poly on Tuesday, and then a 3-1 on a weekend of playing non-conference games, which featured 2 games apiece, each between Grand Canyon and San Diego State. They dropped the second game to Grand Canyon, but swept both games against San Diego State. Carter Graham leads the team in batting at a 350 average. Brett Barrera with 346 and Bray Montgomery at 306. Bray Montgomery has 11 home runs on the year. Carter Graham at 10 and Brock Jones at 5. Brock Jones also has 7 stolen bases. Eddie Park has 6, and then Adam Crampton 6. Let's talk about pitching with these guys. Quinn Matthews, 6 wins as a starter. Alex Williams 5 and Drew Dowd 4. Alex Williams with a 2.29 ERA, Quinn Matthews with a 2.38, and Drew Dowd with a 4.06. Quinn Matthews with 74 strikeouts, Alex Williams 56, and Drew Dowd 45. UCLA, let's talk about them. The Bruins just kind of quietly have been right there and getting into the top 25 at this point in the season. They had a 14-4 midweek win at UC Santa Barbara, taking care of business like they should have in that game. They had a series win at Cal after dropping the opener in that game. UCLA, 340 batting average, leads the way by Mr. Darius Perry. Kyle Karras, 341 batting average. Cody Schreier, 310 batting average. Cody Schreier also has 7 home runs. Michael Curiel, 4 home runs. And Kyle Karras, 3. Kenny Oyama, 18 stolen bases. Cody Schreier, 10. And Michael Curiel with 6. Pitching-wise, Max Rajic, 5 wins. Jake Brooks credited with 5 as well. And then Ethan Flanagan with 3. Max Rajic has a 3.26 ERA. Kelly Austin with 3.27. Jake Brooks, 3.96. Not a bad 1-2-3 punch there ERA-wise. Jake Brooks, 57 strikeouts in the year. Max Rajic, 50. And then Ethan Flanagan, 49. And then the Oregon Ducks. Kind of a tough week here for these guys, for a team that, has really been hot as of lately. They cooled down. They had a midweek win at Portland, 5-4, but they ultimately have a 2-1 series loss against Washington State. They're just a tough weekend for those guys, but this is an offensive firepower program for sure. Tyler Gannis with a 571 batting average, Taylor Holder with a 500, and Drew Cowley with 439. Anthony Hall has 10 home runs, Tanner Smith with 9, and then Brennan Malone with 8. Colby Shade has 9 stolen bases, Gavin Grant with 6, and then Tanner Smith with 5. Pitching really just is kind of by committee. It's definitely more of a struggle for this program. Logan Mercado and Colby Somers with 5 and 4 wins apiece on the mound. Isaac Ione, not a lot to write home about here, ERA-wise, for Mr. Ione at 5.63, leading the way for this team. And RJ Gordon has the second best ERA at 6.59. Yeah, that's the pitching is definitely not the strong suit here of this Ducks program, but they can hit for sure like nobody's business, and that's going to be their calling card here throughout the remainder of their season into the postseason. 38 strikeouts for Mr. Ione, 29 for Matt Dallas, and then 28 for RJ Gordon. And now we move on to the SEC. Yes, the conference that a lot of people just, there's a lot of people just don't love. not a lot of us love getting a lot of attention unless you are a fan of the SEC. They kind of are the big bad evil empire among college sports here. But can't deny it. These guys know how to play baseball, and especially the number 1 team in the country in the Tennessee Volunteers. They are stacked everywhere. Like they do everything very, very well. Jared Dickey with a 370 batting average. Trey Lipscomb, 363. Logan Strinstra, 357. Trey Lipscomb, 16 home runs. Luke Lupicius, 311, with 11 home runs, Jordan Beck with 10. Seth Stevenson, 12 stolen bases in that department. Lupicius with 9, and then Jordan Beck with 6, and Evan Russell 6 as well. But they can also get things done on the mound. Drew Beam, 8 wins as a pitcher. Chase Burns with 7. Chase Dollander, 6. Drew Beam with a 150 ERA, 212 ERA for Chase Burns, and then 294 for Chase Dollander. Dollander also 72 strikeouts. Burns was 66, and Drew Beam 46. What did this team ultimately do? What did this team ultimately do this past week? Well, they just continue to win games and get series wins. Are they peaking too soon? I really don't see any evidence to that. Midweek W at Bellarmine versus Bellarmine, excuse me. That was at home. It was a 9-3 win. Clean sweep at Florida, taking advantage of a team that is definitely have some depth problems at pitching when it comes to Florida, and they went in. They just took care of business and got things done in that regard. Let's talk about the Arkansas Razorbacks. One of these teams here that I considered can be quietly just right there. The Razorbacks also had a really good week for them. 10-1 midweek win versus in-state mid-major Arkansas State at home. But they did have a series loss at Texas A&M. Salvaged 3-1 win in the rubber match on Saturday. Splitting the week 2-2, that's not horrible. So I see, still a good week ultimately. I think that this will be fine. Texas A&M is just a up-and-coming team on the rise within the SEC right now. Aggies playing some really good baseball under first-year head coach Jim Schlossnagle. Michael Turner is leading this team with a 336 batting average. Chris Lenzilli with a 339. Jalen Battles at 297. Brady Slavins, 10 home runs. Braden Webb, 9. And Jalen Battles, 6. Kaden Wallace was 10 stolen bases. Braden Webb and 7. Robert Moore, 5. Pitching-wise, Hagen Smith with 6 wins. Connor Nolan with 5. Jackson Wiggins with 5. Connor Nolan, 254. Earned run average. Hagen Smith, 383. Jackson Wiggins with 466. Connor Nolan leads the team in strikeouts. Jackson Wiggins, 56. And then Hagen Smith at 53. So that is the Arkansas Razorbacks. Let's talk next about the Georgia Georgia Bulldogs in the SEC East. They would split the week 2-2. They picked up a midweek loss, 8-4, excuse me. If I can speak here. 8-4 versus the Clemson Tigers against the surging Tigers team as of late. They picked up a series win at Alabama. Their only loss was 3-0 on Sunday. Georgia, Brandon Jernigan, 500 batting average flat. Connor Tate, 347. Dylan Taylor, 333. Corey Collins with 9 home runs. Parks Harbor, 6. Ben Anderson, 6. Ben Anderson also 6 stolen bases, and then Connor Tate and Garrett Blaylock 3 and 1 respectively. Jonathan Cannon, leads this team in pitching. He's their ace, 7 wins for that man. Luke Wagner 5, and then Liam Sullivan as well. Jonathan Cannon has a ridiculous 155 ERA. Jaden Woods has 57 strikeouts. Jonathan Cannon 52, and then Jack Gowan 35. Also in the SEC East, the Auburn Tigers. Auburn took care of business undoubtedly this past week. Clean 5-0 sweep on the week. 2 midweek, 6-5 and 14-1 wins over Alabama State and Kennesaw State, respectively. A clean series sweep over South Carolina at home this past weekend, taking care of fellow SEC East foe. Auburn, the man to know about him is Mr. Sonny D himself, Sonny DeShara, 446 batting average, leading that team. Blake Rambush at 367, and Brody Moss, 333. DeShara has 12 home runs on the year. Cole Foster has 6, and Ryan Dial at 4. Blake Rambush has 11 stolen bases. Kason Howell, 7, and then Brian Ware, 4, respectively. Joseph Gonzalez has 5 wins on the mound as a pitcher. Carson Skipper, 4 wins, and then Blake Burkhalter, 4 wins. Trace Brights is a 4.24 ERA leading that team. Bright with 55 strikeouts, Burkhalter 47, Mason Barnett 45. Offense leads the day for him, but they've got some pitching to help as well. LSU, the Tigers have been an up and down team this year, but they took care of business this week. Midweek win, 8-4 over Louisiana Lafayette, a team just down the highway from them. And then they had the sweep at home of the Lsu Tigers over the weekend. Typical of Jay Johnson coach squads here. First-year head coach of LSU, coming from Arizona. This is an offensive-driven team. Jacob Berry bats .365, Cade Dowdy .342, and Dylan Cruz also .342. Berry has 12 home runs, Brayden Jabbar 10, and Dylan Cruz 9 apiece. Cade Dowdy has 3 stolen bases, Dugas 2, and then Dylan Cruz 2. So yeah, they swing for the fences, they mash. Not as small ball really is not as much their game. Pitching for these guys: Ty Floyd 4 wins, Mikhail Hilliard 4, and then Grant Taylor 4. All credited to them as starters. Mikhail Hilliard, .364 ERA leading the team. And then Blake Money, .478. Blake Money also has 47 strikeouts on the year. Hilliard with 43, and then Ty Floyd, 39. Let's talk about the Big Ten real quick. The lone Big Ten team right now sitting inside the top 25. That is the Maryland Terrapins. They've just kind of been right there teetering along the edge of the top 25 for a lot of this year. They don't play in the greatest conference in the world in terms of building a resume for the tournament and consideration ultimately for being a high ranked team within the top 25. But we have to give credit to Maryland for playing, for working with what they're given, and ultimately playing as a really strong team throughout this year, and probably have once again solidified a spot here again in the top 25. They had the midweek win at Towson, 4-3, excuse me. And then the series win at Illinois 2-1 after dropping game 1. The Terps are led by Tony Schreffler Jr. with a .348 batting average, and then Luke Schleiger not far behind at .340. Nick LaRusso at .321 as well. Maxwell Costas, 12 home runs in the year. Chris Aline, 11, and Matt Shaw and Bobby Zmarak, 9 apiece. Chris Aline, 12 stolen bases. Luke Schleiger, 11. Matt Shaw, 10. So they get motion out there when they're on the bases. Pitching wise, they can get things done as well too on this team. Ryan Ramsey, 7 wins, credit to him. Jacob Savakul, 7 wins, and then Dylan Falco, 4 wins. Savakul leads the team with a .263 ERA, Ramsey at .277, and then Nick Dean with a .453 ERA. Savakul's 85 strikeouts, Ramsey 59, and then Nick Dean 46 strikeouts on the year. And now we move on to our mid-majors to close things out here today. First mid-major to take a look at here from Conference USA, currently leading that, currently sitting in first place in that conference right now and in the top 10 in the standings. That would be the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. This is a meteoric team that is on the rise right now. What happened with these guys over the past week? Well, really nothing but good things. 2 midweek wins over Tulane and New Orleans, 10-5, 11-5, and 10-5 each. And then they had the weekend sweep of the Rice Owls at home. Dustin Dickerson leads this team with a .348 batting average. Slade Wilkes with .319, and then Reese Ewing at .295. Christopher Sargent, 11 home runs. Will McGillis, 10. Carson Pato, 8, and Reese Ewing, 8 also. Slade Wilkes has 4 stolen bases, Dickerson 3, Pato 2. Once again, it's a team, they more swing for the fences, but they make it work for them. And they have the pitching to help out as well, too. Tanner Hall with 7 wins on the year, Hunter Riggins with 5, and then Ramsey with 5. Hall with a .194 ERA, Hurston Waldrop with a .202, and Hunter Riggins with a .289. Hall with 90 strikeouts in the year, Waldrop with 65, and Riggins with 52. Moving on next to the West Coast Conference, we're going to talk about the conference leading Gonzaga Bulldogs. now sitting at number 12 in the country. They had a pretty good week, if you ask me. They did split midweek games at Oregon State, 13-6 and 9-4. 13-6 game was a win. The 9-4 game was a loss. No shame in that. Oregon State, for a program like that, it's as a mid-major that they want to build as strong of a resume as possible. They're due to just not having the same opportunities of playing in a major conference. Those are good games to have on there and good games to split wins with. And then they got the series win 2-1 at St. Mary's, so 3-2 on the week. Let's talk about what these Bulldogs can do. Xavier Pinales, 351 batting average. Cade McGee, 339. Dylan Johnson, 333. Cade McGee has 6 home runs in the year. Tyler Rando with 2. Stephen Lund, 2 as well. Stolen base department, Xavier Pinales, 12. Enzo Apicata, 7. And then Connor Cabales with 3. Pitching definitely helps out with this team. Gabriel Hughes with 6 wins on the year. Tristan Freeling, 4. Owen Wild with 4. Gabriel Hughes, 2.42 ERA. Freeling, 3.38. And then Wild, a 3.43. Hughes with 97 strikeouts. Freeling, 83. And then Owen Wild with 44. And now we move on to the Big East, from the West Coast out to the East, the other corner of the country, and looking at the UConn Huskies. UConn leading that conference right now, leading the way in first place for them. Corey Morton has a 500 batting average. Eric Stock, 415. Ben Huber, 325. Stock with 8 home runs. Casey Dana with 8 home runs as well. Ben Huber with 7. David Smith, 14. Zach Bushling, 6. And Eric Stock, 5. And then pitching-wise for these guys, Peterson, 8 wins, starter. Pat Gallagher, and Ian Cook, 6 each. Enzo Stefanini, 2.39 ERA. Pat Gallagher, 2.48. And then Austin Peterson, 2.70. Peterson with 88 strikeouts. Gallagher with 69. Stefanini, 45. What did these Huskies do again this past week? They just took care of business. They got the midweek sweep over both UMass with a 28-11 win in that game, and an 8-0 versus Boston College. And then a 2-1 series win versus Villanova at home. Connecticut continues to be right there. They just get things done there in the Big East. Texas State, they're really just having a dream season. Those guys, you gotta like what they are doing. They had the 14-12 midweek win versus UT San Antonio. And then they had the clean sweep of Arkansas Little Rock, including a 32-4 win in game 2. Absolutely ridiculous. What does this Texas State team do? Well, they hit quite well, and they put the offense in motion for sure. Carson Keithley, 667 batting average. Dylan Curbo, 500. And Dalton Sheffield, 393. John Wuthrich, 11 home runs in the year. Sheffield, 7. And then Justin Thompson, 6. Sheffield leads the team in stolen bases at 11. Thompson at 9. And there's Isaiah Ortega-Jones at 7. Tristan Dixon, 6 wins as a starter for him. Levi Wells, 5. And Tristan Stivers, 5 wins as a starter. Levi Wells, 2.29 ERA. Zeke Wood, 2.38. Zeke Wood also has 67 strikeouts, and Wells 51, Stivers 47. Let's talk about Dallas Baptist real quick. Just a confusing year for these guys. 14-1 loss midweek at Texas A&M, and back at home, friendly confines there on the campus of Dallas Baptist University and Horner Ballpark. A 1-2 series loss versus Southern Illinois. Ouch, ouch, ouch. They're just sitting at 24-15 on the year overall for this team. I think they'll probably ultimately get into regionals, I believe, at this point, just unless things absolutely collapse. But it's not, this year's just not living up to expectations of what we would have expected here out of the Patriots. What does Dallas Baptist here ultimately do? What do they bring to the table? Ryan Wrobleski, 369 batting average. Cole Moore, 321. Luke Hefner, 320. Jace Grady, 7 home runs. George Specht, 7 home runs. And Nate Rombach, 7 home runs. And also Blaine Jones, 7 home runs. So those guys swing for power. And Jace Grady is also really good at getting things in motion. 16 stolen bases on the year for him. Luke Hefner with 8 and George Specht with 8 as well. Jacob Metter, 6 wins as a starter. Ryan Johnson, 3. Bubba Hall, also 3. And Zach Hean and Luke Eldred, 3 wins apiece. Jacob Metter, 381 ERA. Luke Eldred, 423. Ryan Johnson, 424. Metter with 68 strikeouts, by and far leading in that department. Ryan Johnson and Bubba Hall at 35 apiece. And our final team to cover here is going to be back to the Sun Belt Conference, the Georgia Southern Panthers. They had a pretty good week. Yeah, I would say so. One midweek loss, 6-5 against Florida State on the road in Tallahassee, but they did get the series sweep at South Alabama. Georgia Southern, Jason Swan, 332 batting average. Jesse Sherrill, 313. Noah Searcy, 311. Noah Ledford, 8 home runs. Austin Thompson with 8, and Christian Avant with 5. Sherrill has 9 stolen bases, Swan 5, and then Jarrett Brown with 3. On the mound for these guys, you've got Gavon Ray with 6 wins, Jalen Payton 5, Ben Johnson 4 on the year. Ty Fisher leading the team in ERA 323, Jay Thompson at 386, and then Jalen Payton at 420. Payton has 44 strikeouts, Thompson 33, and then Ty Fisher at 30. Well, friends, that concludes this week's edition of another great episode of No Doubter. Once again, I appreciate you all for sticking with me here for this week's college baseball update. Like I said earlier, I will not be on Tuesday night's broadcast in a couple days this week due to another commitment that I have that evening. Boom will be holding down the fort by himself that evening, much like I did tonight. We'll both be back. We expect for our regular co-hosting lineup as we normally have next week. But appreciate y'all for sticking around with me. If y'all would just kind of do a little favor for us here as we close out this week's show. So once again, go on and subscribe to the podcast today, wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We don't want you to miss out on anything that we're doing here at No Doubter. Give us a review. Let us know how you're enjoying our programming to this point. Like us on Facebook. You can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram, both at No Doubter Pod. Boom and myself are both available on Twitter at BoomBostic21 and myself at Travis Lofley. We have our brand new YouTube channel. Like I said, please subscribe to that. Our Patreon, if you could please go on ahead and take a look at that as well too. We just launched that recently, so we got to give a big shout out to a couple people in this regard. So longest standing patron, Tad Bostic, and then our Patreon producer, Mr. Don Hale. These guys are really helping us kind of in these, still in this early period of our podcast, making sure that we continue to put on the best program as possible. We have several different tiers as part of that. And, kind of included as a commonality in it here is when you join, even at the lowest level, you become, you start getting shout outs here as being someone who helps us bring this program to you every single week. So we would really appreciate y'all taking a look at that. Please check out our merch store through our partner at TeePublic so you can get decked out in your favorite No Doubter gear. We've got mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, crew neck sweatshirts, baseball shirts, phone cases, many more items I can't think of off the top of my head. Our partner TeePublic has been incredible with us. Take a look at our store. See all these important links here in the description below. We appreciate y'all for joining us here. And No Doubter, we remind y'all, as always, that no matter what you're doing in life, emulate the spirit of your favorite players, your favorite teams, in all that you do. Just go out there ready to compete, ready to give it your all. Bat 400, always swing for the fences. We love you guys, and we'll see y'all on Tuesday. Thanks.